This is Collider by Greg McCann. Looks like I'm married to my boss now. Somehow she's become my wife. That is one of my wives. Head wife, of course. Guess she'll always be the boss. It really is strange having all these wives around. They're loyally dedicated to an absurd degree. Doting on me, cooking for me, cleaning the compound, manning the gun ports, killing for me. And the sex. Anyway. Now I keep asking myself if this is all real. That I've actually become the head of an embattled cult of beautiful women. But of course I know that reality has precious little to do with it. Or maybe it has everything to do with it. I remember wife number one saying to me, "You are our visionary," while she's sitting on my lap in cut-off shorts and nothing else. Her bright green eyes beaming fanatical enthusiasm all over me. But in my memory, she's perched on the corner of my desk in her power suit, back at the offices of the old institute. I remember her saying, "Your problem is you have no vision." She flips a cool hand up from a shapely knee, tucks a lock of auburn hair behind her glasses, and glances absently down at my slumped form, saying further, "That's why you look to the internet for answers." You see, all I want is for our Hadron Collider to matter more than all the others. So what if I look to esoteric sources, but all she cares about is her career? I'm listening with bemusement to the gruffy, clipped voice of the chief negotiator outside. He wants me to know that he knows how this is all going to end. Woven into this terse sentiment of his are the words that I primed him to use. They echo through the shadowy communications room as I lean back in my favorite wicker chair and enjoy a foot rub from wife number 3. Side note, she was a bank teller who flirted with me once. These words are a mathematical code for our escape. I was always a math geek, good with numbers, but kinda hopeless with talk. Now I know that these things are one and the same. And so I speak the spell and get him to speak it in turn. A bank of monitors glow pale blue in a haze before me. And through them I watch the enemy moving around outside the compound. I can even see the negotiator, unbeknownst to him. He's a lot skinnier and maybe even shorter than before. But basically he's the same chump he's always been. Our conversation is occasionally broken by sporadic gunfire from the girls, as per my instructions. Keeps him on his toes. And to think I actually once feared this guy, back when he was my gym teacher. The funny thing is this, to be honest, I'm really doing this to spite her. The way she uses and controls me and places limits on me has to warrant a response, doesn't it? And so it's easy to just enter the code and let the auto engineer do the rest. Just a minor adjustment to the collider's geometry. Our collider. Well, now they've cut the power, which is perfect, by the way. Time for candles. We gather in a circle in the center of the living room with all the furniture piled in the corners. We kneel on the hardwood floor marked in chalk with various sigils. Our loudspeakers drown out the enemy with a recording of all of our negotiations, edited so that only the spell remains. The words resound in a disjointed way that breaks and reforms the rhythms of this world. Wife number 7, an old high school classmate, by the way, lies in state beneath the floorboards, sacrificed during the first shootout with the feds. She'd already been missing the kids. Apparently before all of this went down, I'd instructed the men to leave with all of the children. And now these men are scattered across the country, raising my progeny for me. The internet had a word for guys like that back in my old world. My wives, 16 in all, join hands over their fallen sister's grave and stare at me with absolute and blind devotion. But as I raise the silver blasting cap in my own hand, I notice that wife number one has altered her expression. I remember this. She was saying to me that the irony is that all of your fantasizing indicates a remarkable lack of creativity on your part. This is because you never do anything. You just waste your time constructing theories. Real creativity requires action, she would say. So when are you going to do something? When are you going to take action? Looking from across the circle at me now, her face has regained that familiar mixture of contempt and pity that she'd always had for me. And it's at this point I realize why it had been so easy for me to alter the collider. Why the security was so lax that evening. I thought I'd been defying her. First, she used humiliation. And then praise, ridiculous praise, to be honest. And as the rest of the group gazes at me in groveling servitude, it occurs to me just how embarrassing my fantasies really are. To me, all this cult stuff was just nonsense, an easy scam that I'd somehow manifested through the power of my will. But now it's finally dawned on me that I am in a cult. A much bigger one than just this particular group. One that goes back to my previous life. To the collider. A cult from which there is no escape. Because I succumbed to my pride. I look down at my hands. The blasting cap trembling in my fingers. It takes all of my willpower to look back up at Lucy and meet her eyes, now that I know the truth. See, she'd always been the boss. But now her face is altered again. And I see something else, some sort of a plea, a gesture of kindness, of hope perhaps. Most likely the gentlest of final pushes. Oh, hell. Guess it's time to grow up. My thumb presses down on the blasting cap before I have time to change my mind or even prepare myself for this next collision.